Nosy parents of teenagers, what do you wish you shouldn't have seen? Am a parent. So one weekend wife and I are chilling out in bed watching whatever garbage on TV when our youngest son, 11, comes in and says oldest brother, 13, is looking at porn on his tablet. So we call for oldest son, he denies and denies of course, so tell him to bring me his tablet. He hasn't learned the art of incognito browsing, or clearing history completely. Going through his history, well I'll be damned, he is looking at porn. Not just any porn though. Some anime stuff, some adult raunchy stuff. But the real kicker was the Scooby-Doo porn. Fred fucking Velma, Shaggy fucking Daphne, Velma doing Daphne, etc. So mom leaves the room to let dad and his son talk about this. Starts with the usual, don't lie, you can't hide this shit from me. If I go through your browsing history, it's okay to masturbate. In private of course, you're growing up, yada yada yada. Finish the conversation, give him his tablet back, but as he's walking out the door, I can't but help do my best / worst Scooby impression, but Shaggy followed by zoinks, jinkies and rah found your porn. His face got so red, and I just lost it, I was in tears. Now every so often, when he starts to cop an attitude with us, I just go zoinks to him. Kicker of it all, youngest son comes into the room with I was only joking, I didn't know he really was. As a kid, it seemed like, no matter where you hid shit, your mother would find it. I had a nice stash of spank mags when I was a young teen, and decided I would hide them in one of my guitar cases, even behind the guitar. My mother would have absolutely no reason whatsoever to open one of those. She still found them, and acted like she wasn't looking for anything. When we moved house and all the stuff was in the new place, one of the moving guys called me out to double check the receipt, and when we were out of my mom's earshot / eyeline he handed me the weed pipe that had fallen out of the hid-a hole in the back of my desk when they were moving it. What a bro. I raised a daughter as a single father, I'm not a natural snoop. I try to not be too nosy. The worst part for me was having her around my mom. My mom is more nosy than any 5 people I have ever met. My mom was left alone in my house with just the dog when my daughter was 15. My daughter is now in her mid-20s, and I still have not heard the last from my mom about her having 3 different vibrators, and therefore is somehow perverted. She hasn't lived at home since she left for college at 18, and I'm still hearing about it. My mom found a thing saying I was bi and confronted me while crying about it and begging me to tell her why I had turned away from God. 6 years later, and I'm still so far in the closet I may as well rule Narnia. Also she found my yaoi stash when I was a fucking weeblol. Not a parent, but a witness to their finding something they didn't want to see. Work it. Guy had his daughter's computer that was having issues opening some photo application and needed it fixed. As we're going through and checking if it worked, yet opened up and presented an image of his daughter, naked, holding a huge dildo. No words were exchanged. He closed the lid and left. Not a parent. This happened a couple years ago when I still lived with my mom and stepdad. My stepsister used to live in my room, and it had been nearly a year since she moved out. I had a vibrating dildo that my best friend had bought me as a joke, but not really a joke, for a birthday gift. I used it frequently, and I would hide it in the bottom of a drawer in my closet, hidden in a hat. My mom decided to snoop and found it, but somehow thought it was my stepsister's and kept it. I asked her about it, and she was blown away by the fact that I masturbated, but she was going to send the toy in the mail back to my sister without telling her. Now that would have been a disaster. TLDR, my mom almost sent my dildo to my sister in the mail. Update, I texted her about it, and she had the typical response like, not my daughter. And yes, I did get it back but soon threw it out, because the thought of my mom knowing what I use was too much. I once found a sock that would not only stand on its own, but could be used to prop a window open. I would have sat the kid down for a conversation, but I don't have kids. I also have an uneven number of socks now. I'm not a parent, but on my 16th birthday my girlfriend at the time was over, and we were in my room watching a movie just chillin'. I went downstairs at a point during the night, leaving the GF in the room to get a drink of water. Whilst downstairs my mother asks me if I had any laundry to be done. This wouldn't be strange for most 16-year-old guys, but I had been doing my own laundry since I was 14 due to my parents regularly being away for days at a time for work. I was confused, but just replied no, I did some yesterday, I'm checking anyway. So she did. I got my glass of water and one for the GF and started my path back to my room when two shrill screams come from that direction. I ran to the door. My mother storms out, eyes on the ground, and grumbles, I'm never going into your fucking room again. I enter the room, perplexed, only to find my GF wrapped in a bedsheet on the bed, her clothes strewn on the ground. She had been sat on the edge of the bed with nothing on whatsoever when my mother walked in. The night was ruined, and my mother never entered my room again. I'm sure she regrets being such a nosy fool. Typical not a parent. I was helping my recently turned teen cousin with a PC problem. I know his dad has some controls set, so I did a little snooping to see how effective they were. Apparently the kids discovered futanery and hentai. He likes the classics. Black Bible was searched for a lot. Didn't tell his dad, but I did peel the fuck out to my hands. Neither of my parents seem to be nosy, but I have had some interesting moments. Like at one point my dad wanted me to look something on the web and saw I had Madina Arabic on the bookmark tab, and, naturally, his first response is, "Are you trying to join ISIS?" I'm just really into languages, something that apparently my family finds really weird. Not a parent. Went to take a piss in a stall at school, found a cell phone on the TP dispenser. It didn't have a lock screen. I thought I would search in the contacts for someone the owner spoke to regularly, mom or whoever, to send them a text. Found your son's phone. It'll be with campus security. As soon as I swiped to unlock, it opened to a Google image search result page for sexy she-males. I wiped the browser history, turned it into security, and went about my day like nothing happened. It was at that moment I realized how numb I was to odd shit. So I have a bunch of weird sleep issues, and one of them is the ability to hold conversations with people while I'm in a deep sleep. I have no memory of the conversations. My mom found out about this when I was a teenager, and apparently she would sneak into my room in the middle of the night and sleep me would dish out all the scoop. Who was having a party, who I liked, which of my friends made bad life choices, everything. She would never punish me for it, but would give advice based on what sleep me confessed. It always confused me on how much she knew about my life. When I'm extra tired or stressed, this comes back, and apparently I have had hilarious conversations with my husband. I have just recently discovered that I passed this trait down to my son. Part of me is tempted to get the scoop from my kid, but another part of me wants to respect his personal space. I'm not really a parent, but I suppose the easiest classification here would be stepmom. When wandering around my boyfriend's ex's mom's property to visit his daughter, she has custody and lives with her mom. We found a noose strung up in a tree back in his daughter's play area of the forest. She was 12 at the time. About a week or two later, or before, I don't remember, her mom, the ex, found a suicide note back there. It was written in Crayola marker and filled with "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." It was absolutely heartbreaking to read. We've all tried to rally around her. We're definitely not a normal family, and it's been hard on his daughter. She's doing better now and has a ton of great friends, but it was about the worst thing to find. Since that time there has been a lot of talk about being open about feelings. She's talked to school counselors, and her mom is trying to pay more attention to her. When my BF and I are able to have her with us, we play /r/D&D with her, and she's hooked on it. Seriously, other than homework she spends all her time making modules and writing character backstory. It was a chilling discovery that day in the forest, but it could have been far worse. She could have been in the noose, and now we are all a lot closer. Not a parent, but this scenario is kind of the other way around. I found an uncomfortably large vibrator in my mum's room once when I was looking for candy, which she often hoards. Oh, and it wasn't the cheap kind either. They didn't spare any realism when they made that thing. Even worse, I thought it was a flashlight. You can imagine my surprise when the flashlight had veins, but of course the most traumatizing part was when I pressed the button and instead of illuminating the drawer, it vibrated intensely. Took me half an hour to find out how to turn it off. Back in high school, my friend Eli's house was right next to our campus. I wasn't allowed to go hang out after school, though. No boys were, unless her mother was home. Why? Because mom had walked in on Ally giving a guy oral sex in the basement one day. The only reason I actually know this story is because one day I was there with parental supervision. And when mom has to leave for errands, she said, well, I wish I could leave you guys here alone, but I guess Ally really blew that chance. I have never seen a teenager turn that red. Not a parent story, but my piece of shit brother-in-law would try to catch me doing shit. My sister is much older, so I'd stay with them sometimes in the summer when I was a kid. He showed me his new computer and then said, don't give anyone my AOL password, and just left me alone for a day while they worked. I was 12 with free reign to the internet. He came home with a perverted grin on his fat face. Did you know I can see what websites you've been to today? Oh, I can. He sat down at his computer, fired up the history with a glint in his dead big eyes and saw 12 hours of activity. Of me doing two things, reading about Animorphs and Star Trek, and chatting about Animorphs and Star Trek. My mom taught me how to wash my own clothes at 6. She honestly hated doing the laundry that much. For my birthday once I turned down her offer of $100 to instead just do my laundry, adding that it would honestly appeal to me that much. She still wouldn't do it, and left the Benjamin in my coat pocket. Being a late bloomer, I took home a girl to meet my parents, and had sex for the first time at 21 in their basement as many young men do. Not wanting her finding the condom in the garbage can, I emptied the rubber and pocketed it. I then changed clothes, so I wouldn't smell like 6. You guessed it. 90 minutes later I see my mom folding my clothes. You're doing my laundry. For the first time in 15 years. Sigh. And you of course checked the pockets. She folded quietly looking down. Yes, John Van Heen. I found the condom 8 years ago and that was, and likely always will be, the last time she did my laundry. The little boy I tutor gave me his iPod so I could find some music on YouTube to play in the background. Opened the search bar, typed for whatever song it was, and the first suggestion was a girl's butt close up. How did that get there? My 9-year-old pupil exclaimed, incredulous. I did not search that. It did not matter that he was the only person in the household with that level of writing capability. I just kept going, found my music, and didn't tell his very strict mum. In high school I bought a pipe for weed. It went missing days afterwards, so naturally I was panicked. I searched the house top to bottom and asked my brother, who was 12, if he had it. His answer was no, and it sent me into a panicked loop of searching house / asking brother. I had written it off until a month later, when I heard a commotion from my brother's room. My father found the pipe and my brother claimed it was mine. My father stormed down the hall and woke me up with, "Is this your hash pipe?" I had to stifle a laugh. First time I had even heard the word hash used as a drug name, and told him nope, never seen that before. He went down the hall and proceeded to kick the shit out of my brother for smoking hash and lying. Still to this day I have a smile on my face telling this story. Worst part is I don't think he ever even got to smoke anything out of the pipe, was just a kleptomaniac.